Hi, this is Dr. Xu teaching design of experiments for engineering research. In this video, I'll show you instances that when two nuisance factors exist and you want to block these two factors using the Latin square design. Let's look at a problem first. There are 4 different chemicals that has the potential of reducing car air pollution by modifying a gasoline mixture if a small amount is added to the gasoline. In the experiment, you want to test if there is any difference in the pollution levels generated from cars with the 4 types of modified gasoline. So the 4 types of chemicals is a factor under investigation. We form the hypothesis testing as this. The null hypothesis is all the main pollution levels are the same for cars with 4 types of chemical modified gasoline. The alternative hypothesis is that at least one pair of the chemical produce different mean pollution levels. In addition to the main factor, which is the chemical type, there are 2 nuisance factors. We have so many different types of cars, and also there will be different drivers with different driving habits. Because we don't want the experiment conclusion to be valid only for any specific cars driven by a specific driver, we will not perform the experiment with a single car and a single driver. We will block the 2 nuisance factors by using the Latin square design. Because we have 4 levels of treatments, A, B, C, and D, in the Latin square design, we will randomly pick 4 levels for the 2 nuisance factors. So 4 randomly picked drivers as the 4 rows, and 4 randomly picked cars as the 4 columns. So the drivers and the cars are the 2 block factors. Next, we will assign the treatment A, B, C, D, so each treatment appears once and only once in every row and every column. If we number the cars and drivers and put everything in a table, this design is a square arrangement with the treatment denoted by Latin letters A, B, C, and D. Hence, the name is Latin square design. This slide shows some examples of the Latin square design with 3 treatments, 4, 5, and 6 treatments. The Latin square design is used to block 2 nuisance factors of variability. A standard Latin square can always be obtained by writing the first row in alphabetical order and then writing each successive row as a row of letters just above, shifted one place to the left. And the first letter becomes the last one on the second row. For the next row, C came here, A came here, and the first letter B becomes the last one. It's the same thing if we have more treatments. See here, it's shifted one letter to the left. Second row shifted one letter to the left to form the third row. A key procedure in experimental design is to randomize. The easiest way of randomization for the Latin square design is to use the standardized Latin square with the first row and column consist of the letters written in alphabetical orders. Choose the row nuisance factor randomly and randomly assign a row number to each levels. In this example, I randomly pick the 4 drivers and randomly assign the number 1 to 4 to each of the driver. I will do the same thing for the column nuisance factor. In this example, I randomly pick 4 cars and assign the column number 1 to 4 randomly to each car. And lastly, I will randomly assign letters A, B, C, D to each of the treatments in the main factor. In our example, it's a chemical type. The statistical model for the Latin square design can be represented by this equation. The response is the sum of the overall mean, mu, the row and column effect, and the treatment effect. And lastly is the random error, which is the residue. Compared to the completely randomized block design, we have added one more term in this model. As you can see, this is an additive model as well, and there is no interaction between the 3 effects. when the interactions between factors are a likely possibility, you will need to use factorial design, which will be discussed in later videos. The calculation of the ANOVA table for our Latin square design with p-treatment levels is shown on this slide. The method is similar to that for the randomized complete block design, but with one more factor. Here it has treatment rows and columns. After designing the experiment, we will need a table to record the data. For the car pollution example, I put the driver's number here. I repeat each number 4 times. And for the column number, the car number, I put it here. I finish the number from 1 to 4 and repeat this sequence 4 times. For the treatment letters A, B, C, and D, I put it in this column according to the standard Latin square sequence, starting from the first row, left to right, and then the next row, all the way to the last row. The response, which is the pollution levels, is recorded in the last column here. When we present the data in a table to be included in a paper, we will put the result into the Latin square, like shown in this table. The row numbers, the column numbers, the name of the 2 nuisance factors, and the response are put in the same cell with the treatment. Now I will show you how to use R code to perform the ANOVA analysis and plot this figure showing the pollution levels for each treatment chemical types. These are the R codes to perform the ANOVA analysis for the car pollution example. I have stored the data in an Excel file. I set the current working directory to where I have stored this Excel file. Load the readXL library and read the data and store it to a data frame called pollution. I use the strl function to look at the structure of the data. For now, let's just execute these lines. Now you can see in this pollution data frame, we have the data in format of numeric and characters. The following 3 lines convert the driver, cars, and chemicals. That's the name of the columns in this pollution data frame. These 3 lines convert the data type to 2 factors. And this line will display the structure of the data again. Let's execute these 4 lines. Now you can see we have the driver, cars, and chemicals as factor, and the pollution levels, which is these numbers, are still numeric. The last 2 lines are used to perform the ANOVA analysis. As you can see, the p-value for the chemical factor, which is the factor we are investigating, is larger than 0.05, which indicates there is strong evidence showing the 4 different types of chemicals do not have the same level of pollutions. Although the drivers and the cars are not the main factor we are looking at, but the p-value is also displayed here. We can see the p-value for the driver is smaller than 0.05, which means different drivers do not impact the pollution levels. And the p-value for the cars is larger than 0.05, which means different type of cars impact the pollution levels. After the ANOVA analysis, I use these 3 lines of code to plot this figure. I copy these 3 lines, select them, and click Run here. The plot is displayed here. This code and these 3 lines of code are posted in the first comment down below this video. Okay, as you can see, the Latin squares are very efficient by including 2 blocking factors. However, the degree of freedom for error are often too small. So we consider replicating a Latin square to increase the degree of freedom and have better accuracy of identifying the treatment differences. Let's consider replicating the car pollution Latin square design for 3 times. You could use the same squares over again in each replicate. In that case, you will be using this Latin square, perform 1 set of experiment, and do another 2 exactly the same experiment with the same Latin square. but we prefer to use randomized Latin square for each replicate. So for the first replicate, we use the standard Latin square, and the second and the third replicates, we use two different randomized Latin square. There are three situations on how do we do the replication. The first one is that we use the same row and column levels. In the car pollution example, we use the same 4 cars, so car 1, 2, 3, 4, and the same 4 drivers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and replicate the experiment using these 3 Latin squares. In this case, with n replications, the ANOVA table is shown on this slide. In the second case, one of our blocking factors, either the row or column, is going to be the same across replicates, whereas the other will take on new values in each replicate. For example, we keep using the same cars, so we use the same 4 cars for the 3 replicates, but we use different drivers. We use 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 drivers in replicate 1, but another 4 different drivers in replicate 2, and another 4 different drivers in replicate 3. So in total, we use 12 drivers. In this case, with n replications, the ANOVA table is shown on this slide. In this case, we have used different values for the rows. The ANOVA table is shown on this slide. If we use different values for the columns, the calculation will need to be switched. In the last case, we can use different levels for both the row and column factors. As you can see, we not only use 12 different drivers, but we also use 12 different cars. In this case, we have used different levels for both the rows and the columns, and the calculation of ANOVA table is shown on this slide. At the end of this video, I would like to show you 2 more examples where you can apply the Latin square design. In this example, you want to study 4 different fertilizers to the yield of corn. There are many different breeds of corn, and they can grow on different soil. So we can set the row and column blocks as 4 different breeds of corn and 4 kinds of soils. In another example, if you would study the effect of 3 different dust suppression solutions to the control of dust, there are different dust materials and you can spray them with different types of spray nozzles. So we can use 3 different dust materials and 3 types of nozzles as the row and columns in the Latin square design. Okay. Hopefully, after watching this video, you can apply the Latin square design to your research. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. And thank you very much for watching. If you feel this video is helpful, please subscribe, like, and share. This is Dr. Xu. I will see you in the next video.